Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling Beyond the Pulpit with the Good News Gang. And we are so glad you joined us again as we bring forth the topic that we've been wrestling with, and we're wrapping up this short little series that we started over the last couple weeks in terms of an article that we've been discussing 10 things that we stopped doing during the pandemic and should stay away from. And then now we're concluding with a list of things that we must get back to. But before we get to that discussion, we want to not only say hello, but introduce ourselves. And my name is Pastor Matt West from Marble Memorial United Methodist Church in Milan. And I'm joined this week by Pastor Kim Metzer from Hope UMC in Hastings and Pastor Jackie Ranieri from Clare UMC. Pastor Curtis is on vacation this week, and Pastor Matt had another obligation, but they'll be back with us next time. And so here you are with 3/5 of the Good News Gang trying to wrap up this discussion. And as I said, today we're talking about the 6 things that we must get back to. And so I'm going to very quickly share that list, and then we'll share some thoughts with you on each one of those items. Just to wrap up this discussion. So, according to, I'm trying to remember this person's name that wrote the article. Yes, Carl Vetters or Vetters, however he pronounces it. But as far as the 6 things that he feels that we must get back to, 1 is in-person gathering, 2, communion, 3, water baptism, 4, eating together, 5, worship through song, and 6, praying together. So if you've missed the last couple of weeks, we've been discussing the beginning of his article, which included the 10 things churches stopped during lockdowns and that we don't need to restart. So we went through that list over the last 2 weeks, and now we're finishing up with these things that he suggests that we get back to. So,
it's not really a finish up, because next week we're taking on
some
items that we felt were left off of either list.
That's
so
right. Next to last of this discussion.
Yes, the bonus session.
Don't rush it.
So, if we go back to this list of 6 things that we must get back to, the first was in-person gathering. What are your thoughts or feelings on that item?
We're back. So, and I believe it's important. That's how we build relationships, and that's part of the balance between people who just do not want to worship digitally or don't have the capability or the technology. And we, as he said in the article, nothing will ever replace being together in the same room to worship Jesus. Mm-hmm. And while many of us are looking at starting a digital campus that will be completely digital, it will be done in such a way that the people that would attend that campus, that's how they are comfortable worshiping. But since that's not how most of us were brought up, in person, there's nothing that can beat being in person.
And I think, here we are in this pandemic. Hopefully we're on the downside of the pandemic of there, but I think we need to gather. I think it's very important, but we need to do it safely, as we all agreed on that. And it may look different. Your gathering may be in a park, or your gathering may be in a parking lot, or, maybe it is in your sanctuaries. Let me get that word out. Sanctuaries. But it's just, you got to watch your numbers. You got to make it safe, and just, not a free for all, just, hey, we're back together kind of thing, but be cautious about it. It just, I think that's important about it, just to stress that point. It is important to be in person, and just, yeah.
It certainly helps with, building community and extending those relationships, but I think we have to also acknowledge the fact that, there are 2 norms in terms of those who need that physical interaction in person, and those that are comfortable with interacting online through, whether it be, something like video chat, like what we're doing, or even if it's just, typing back and forth in a chat room or whatever. So, I mean, we have to acknowledge that there are, two groups of people. And so it's a little bit different for everybody, but being an extrovert, yes, I love in-person gathering. But I also want to, speak to the point that, as we go through this list, I feel that, the author of it, is speaking for those more so that haven't been doing those things. But for those of us, in the Good News Gang, at least the three of us here this week, we're doing a lot of these things already that he mentions in the list. I mean, we are back to in-person gathering. We haven't opened things up 100%, at least at my church, but we are doing in person.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, the next thing on the list was communion. He says it's one of the essentials, remembering Jesus shed blood and broken body while we meet as his gathered body. The theology of some churches doesn't even allow for communion unless you're physically in the same room together. My theology does allow for virtual communion, and we did that when we had to, but being in the same room really does matter.
Really does. Agreed.
Yeah.
And I know there's been like back and forth even in our denomination, the United Methodists, about, can people take communion online? Can they, and there are reasoning and theology behind it. I mean, it works great, but I agree. It needs to be in person. It's that coming together in community, gathering together again in community, and being there to partake in this time, this opportunity. We're doing communion, but we're doing those famous communion on the go kind of thing with the styrofoam wafer, and I get complaints every month of like, oh my gosh, it tastes like styrofoam. And it's like, I know, I really do. I gag on it myself. I'm up there chugging water afterwards because it's stuck to the roof of my mouth, or because I just got done speaking and it's like stuck there, and it's kind of yeah.
I started suggesting to my congregation, to dip it in the juice before they eat it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Being that intinction is a method that we use pre-pandemic. Those wafers are not very tasty or desirable, but maybe dipping it in the juice first might make it a little bit easier. But I know for my mother in her church, their theology allows them to do virtual communion, but the thought process is to do it while the service is going on, not like, oh, hey, I'll watch service later this afternoon and then do it, but trying to be a part of the community, although it be virtual, and doing it when everybody else is doing it, and that's part of my concern is like people just grabbing like whatever they have in the house to, like, oh, here's some Gatorade and, I don't know, the crust off my pizza, and using that for the bread and the wine, to do communion in their home. My suggestion would be from a United Methodist perspective is then do a love feast, but not call it communion, but do a love feast, which serves the same purpose, but then allows you to use what you have available versus trying to, take whatever to be the wine, to be the blood and body of Christ. But I think, for most of us, again, we're in person. And so if people choose to join us, then, they can partake on, in Holy Communion the way that I guess it was intended for. All right. Well, moving on this list, water baptism is the next one. Whether
you definitely can't do virtual.
I'd like you to go and dunk your head in the water yourself, and I'll just say the prayer from here.
No, not the same. So agreed. That needs to come back for sure. And you could do it at the lake. We could all go.
Even some in the swimming pool.
Yeah, just
at the river. Wow, what a concept!
We have a river running right through Hastings. We could. Yep.
Oh, there you go.
A little chilly for that, but
yeah. But it can still happen.
Wear your wetsuit. I don't know.
Right. Well, and as we continue to, more and more people be vaccinated, hopefully it's something that people will be comfortable with, and obviously I think even if it's in the building, The pouring over of water or the sprinkling of water can certainly be done without, people feeling as if, there's an
Absolutely.
issue or a concern in terms of
Rubbing alcohol for the water.
we don't want to bleach their hair.
Alcohol wouldn't bleach. Anyway,
Damage, I don't know, whatever. Hair, it's hair.
you dry it out. Okay.
But I mean, it is. We've been fortunate enough, to be able to do, communion since we've been in person. But baptism is certainly something that's I think been missing. Of course, I think it's been missing pre-pandemic as well, and the fact that it doesn't seem as if we have that many going on. That it's not a recruitment thing, and it's not a way to increase numbers. But I think the remembrance of baptism and being able to bring somebody into the life of Christ and make that relationship with God even stronger, that's the powerful thing behind baptism, I think.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're just chugging right along here. We're up to number 4 on this list, and it simply says eating together. And of course, he states a very common fact: Christians have always eaten together. Always. Sharing a meal is what the original idea of communion was and still is in many churches. But even if your church, like mine, sees a shared meal and communion as separate events, neither one is expendable. Excuse me. So what about eating together again?
We're going to. So for annual conference, our annual conference is all online, but there's a laity event that they want all laity to attend if possible, or it's open to anybody essentially. And a lot of my people don't have internet, so I'm going to broadcast that event in our sanctuary. And then the opening worship is an hour after that event ends. So in that intervening hour, I'm going to cater in dinner and we're going to eat together. So
nice.
We have big enough space to do it. We could even do it outside if it's nice. It's early June. So, but we have the space, and either most of my church is vaccinated and or has had COVID. So I feel very comfortable in doing that. And I do believe we need to get back to church. Being the church isn't just about Sunday morning, and we need to be together as the church throughout the week. And this is the first step. So there we go.
We did one at St. Patrick's or on St. Patrick's Day, and we're doing one this weekend, but it's getting to that point where we can eat together. We're offering to-go meals, so we're putting together a meal, but we're right now, because we haven't opened up the building for that type of thing, we want to at least try in some way to break bread with others by offering, this meal, although it be to go, in hopes that as, the state opens up, then we can open up and, and hopefully get back to that point. Because it's nice to be able to sit down and break bread with people and, maybe have some other discussions outside of Sunday morning, as Pastor Kim said, and hopefully we can get to that point, and like the article said, we've always eaten together, and that's something United Methodists are commonly known for is we do eat well. So
your special 9x11 pan.
Yeah, exactly. You miss the Jello mold with the pretzel or the fruit bits in it, and
I love that.
all those famous potluck dishes.
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Pastor Jackie, any thoughts on eating together?
Just we haven't gone that route yet. We did have a Thanksgiving community dinner where it was to go. People came to the door, and we served over 100, I think, on that event. But we've just kind of our eating area, our kitchen, everything is like downstairs. I don't want to say the basement, but it's on the lower level. There's no really like ventilation and all kinds of things like that. So as far as having funeral dinners, because they were known in the area, Claire, for funeral dinners, and that we've just kind of let's, if we can do it some other way besides in the building, I think they're looking at different ways of going that route. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of eating, I have a weekly lunch with Pastor Bryce, who's in the area. So I'm texting him, in case you see me using my phone, to let him know I'm going to be a little late.
All right, then. Well, number 5 on this list says worship through song, and he speaks to the point of singing while watching a screen at home isn't the same. And to be honest, I never did sing along. But just like Christians have always baptized believers, shared communion, and eaten together, we've always worshiped through song. It's inconceivable for us to be the church without doing this together.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know for me personally, sometimes that's what gets me the most in worship is singing.
Yes.
Hopefully you take a nugget away from the message or what, but sometimes, but sometimes it might be a song that you take with you, that day, whether you've heard it before or not. Sometimes
it's the music that just sticks in your, and so that tune just resonates. And
yeah, I mean, it speaks to, sometimes it speaks to me and maybe what's going on that day or what's going on in my life, that, there's where the message comes from, is from that song. Not to say that the pastor's message wasn't good or anything, but it's like that, sometimes that speaks to me more than maybe the message did that day.
Right.
Yeah, we're singing. We sing with mask on. We only sing 2 songs, but at least we're we're spread out enough where people are sitting with family units, and and a lot of the church, they may not be living in the same household, but they've been together the whole time through COVID, right, at each other's and houses and that. So, and those are the ones that tend to sit by each other. But as far as singing, we do, we're trying to be safe as we can, but we are singing. We are, it just wasn't cutting it with the just me. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't sell the whole show.
And I don't sing. So,
and I don't sing either.
But not for the benefit of other people.
Now, some people may think I have the so-called voice.
I always turn off my mic.
I try. I just go with the whole make a joyful noise for the Lord. You
are Matthew West, right?
Well,
right. There you go. Just that. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I noticed like the liturgist that usually kind of like really separates himself from me, like, oh my gosh. Like, yep, lucky you.
But, I think just real quick to that point though, it's like, we're worshiping God. We're not recording an album. We're not, a mega church praise team band or any, we're not the Mormon Tabernacle Choir or anything. Like, even John Wesley says if you open up one of our hymnals, in the front of it speaks to this point of like, sing to the Lord. It's like, it doesn't, more or less, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's like, yet we've kind of created that standard where it's like, if we don't, then it's not good. Well, I don't believe that for one second.
But he does say, sing modestly, do not bawl so as to be heard above or distinct from the rest of the congregation.
I mumble. What can I say?
Well, you know what though, maybe the counterpoint is everybody needs to sing louder so your voice doesn't stick out above the others. Because I'll tell you what, I've been in enough churches, either between growing up and now as a pastor. Either you got to pick better songs that people know, or people just need to sing louder, because there are times where it's like, oh, does the congregation know this song? Yep. And it's a low murmur, it's like, so it doesn't take much for a voice to stand out, and then people go, who is that singing?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're at the end of this list, and the last item on it is praying together. It says different churches do this in different ways, or very different ways. And he lists off some different ways that people may pray in their churches. But he says that most of the forms that corporate prayer takes requires us to be together again. So I guess where are we at in terms of being together to pray? Does it hold more of an impact, or is it something that we do need to be together for?
I think so. It's so powerful to pray the Lord's Prayer together as one voice. Last summer, when we were doing an online Bible study, I would unmute everybody during the time that we would say the Lord's Prayer together. And it was just this cacophony of voices, all, because Zoom, they're all out of sync. And some people hated it. I loved it just because it just shows how unique we all are. But we were all saying it together. And there's just something powerful about that. So,
yeah.
And we've been praying with everyone involved in the worship service. So we pull everyone together, and we have a woman, God bless her. She's our prayer warrior, and she prays for the whole team. And I think it just sets you feel better. Like if there's a week when we got so busy, and everybody's running late, and we just get up there, it just feels scattered. But that moment just to breathe in and just prayed over and just to pray, it really settles. And you just feel Christ's presence. And it's just like, we can do it no matter what falls apart, we can still do it. And it's just, the attitude is different. It's just, I appreciated that, coming together and being able to do that, where you really can't do that so much online. I mean, you can pray together online, but it's not that, and we don't hold hands. We touch each other's shoulders. I mean, we actually just touch each other, and it's like, it is. It's something that I know we're touching, sorry, but we're masked and we're touching. We're not hugging and kissing. We're touching shoulders.
Where's the hand sanitizer?
Sanitizer shower.
And it is. We got sanitizer right out there. It's all done. We're all good. We're good to go. But we touch. It's part of being together.
That the power of touch is underestimated.
You're right.
In a hug,
people, and it's kind of like people kind of sneak in a hug kind of thing like that. But it's just kind of that. I don't know.
The one thing, though, that I find interesting in regards to the prayer in person versus online, it seems like people have an easier time sharing their prayer request in person than online. Like something about typing it makes people uncomfortable, but yet being able to verbally share it is easier, which strikes me as kind of odd, but I mean, again, different strokes for different folks, but I guess during this time, if it was that important, you would think you'd want to share your prayer request, but yet, I don't know, for some people that's just it's awkward to type it versus, saying it.
Right.
Yes, the power of prayer is definitely important. And yes, I agree with you in the fact that, I guess in a lot of ways with certain things, I miss that laying on of hands, whether it be to bless a mission team that's going out or, something, somebody who is in need of that form of prayer or whatever. I miss that, because I think there's definitely a lot of power in that, being able to touch shoulders, that having power too, so.
Yep.
All right. Well, there is that list of things we need to get back to based on this article. And then he ends it and is a great segue into next week is there anything else? So we're going to come back next week with Pastor Curtis and Pastor Matt and wrap up this discussion, this 4-week discussion by the time we get done with it. with our thoughts, but we're curious maybe what your thoughts are. What are some things that aren't on either of those lists, the 10 things that we didn't do and that we don't need to go back to, and then the things that we do need to maybe get back to. So we would certainly love to hear your thoughts, and you're welcome in any of our feeds or on our YouTube page to to express those thoughts so that we can add it to our conversation. But thank you to Pastor Kim and Pastor Jackie for joining me this week as we worked our way through this list. And we hope you enjoyed it and that you'll come back and join us again next week for another episode of the Wrestling Beyond the Pulpit. But until next time, peace be with you.